Alright, so we're holding towards the end of Hilchos Basar B'Cholov, Siman Tzadik Zayin. A quick review of what we covered in Sif Aleph, and then we'll go on to Sif Beis and Gimel. In Sif Aleph, we're interested Lemaisa to Gzera Midrabanan, Gzera from the Chachamim, not to knead the dough with milk or with fat. Usually in preparation, we're talking about in the preparation of bread. Since bread is something that regularly is eaten, the two kinds of meals, a fleishik or a melicha meal, and one may come to make the mistake of eating a melicha bread in a fleishik meal, or the other way around, eating something fleishiks in a melicha meal. So even though it is also to do so, to eat melicha bread in a fleishik meal, the Chachamim were goizer that even if you intend, oh no, I will not eat it, I will watch out, I will not eat it in a fleishik meal. I will watch that I only eat this bread, this melicha bread, for breakfast. No, it's also. In other words, it's interesting that the Chacham said, in case you did it, I feel a bit shoygig, that is, it's also meaning even to eat it by itself, as a snack. I want to eat it now for lunch. I want to take it with me on a trip. The bread has become asur. So that's important to keep in mind, that this halacha is an interesting halacha. It's not that, okay, you did it, just make sure you have it with milk only. Because there may be you can come to eat it with meat, make sure you, no, if you did it, even though you did not know, we'll talk a little bit later on what happens in a hefsed meruba situation, a bakery, okay, what are the possibilities, can we do anything to fix it? No, only Yisrael, obviously. You can give it to a goy, to a dog, not to another Jew who made the same mistake, right? Right. Well, we don't really are choshev to that unless that possibility exists a large quantity or something. So, the Mechaber tells us that this is the general halacha, unless, of course, we're dealing with a situation where it is easily identifiable as such, that this is a milchik bread. It has a shinu in the tzura, in its shape and form. No one will make the mistake. We also learned that identifying sign could be when the cheese is obvious. In other words, it doesn't necessarily have to be, like the Mechaber puts it, that if there's a shinu in the tzura, as a pas, which is, by the way, what is learned from the Gemara, in the way the Meforshim explain, the way they interpret the Gemara, that there's a shinu, there's an actual identifying mark on it, or as the other poskim say, that it doesn't have to be that, it could also be that there is cheese all over it. I mean, you see the cheese, so you won't make the mistake. Or you see the meat, you won't make that mistake. That will be perfectly fine too. It's acceptable. The other possibility is that if it's a small kamut, a small quantity, and we said that on that there was a machlekes, apparent machlekes between the Mechaber and the Ramah. What does that mean? The Mechaber says very simply that it has to be domut kedei achila bebas achas. The bas achas doesn't necessarily mean at once, just like that. It could be in that meal. Ordinarily you finish it. You don't leave it behind, because the whole problem is that if it's big, something is left over, you may save it for the next meal, and so forth. When there's nothing to be left over, that chashash does no longer exist.
Oh, yeah. And if by mistake I did make, we said you have to give it to the goy, the non-Jewish
right,
neighbor.
You can't finish it.
But if I can finish it in that one meal.
No, usually you don't. Now you say, well, I'm going to finish it now. No, it's become asur. Remember?
How about if I cut off a quantity that I can't?
No, the bread has become asur.
To the dog, I can do it.
The whole thing. The bread has become asur. Yeah. Now, the Ramah seems to say that as long as you finish it during the day.
A larger quantity.
Oh, so it's a larger quantity. So from that one can infer, and that's the way the poets can bring down, I believe, that Shabbos, if you finish your chalas during the day, then it's fine.
The day being the Shabbos?
No, the day. Right, not the 24 hours,
so
but the day.
I can't have that same bread during night meal and then continue eating it.
Exactly, right. It would have to be the day. It was approximately in the morning, in the afternoon, a bread that is ordinarily finished during that time frame, so there's no chashash that it will be left over for other kinds of meat that it's not compatible with. Right?
Which is strange, because Shabbos, dafka, you only have meat with it, otherwise it's not really...
Right, so we're talking about the case of
the bread
with the meat instead. Exactly. That's it. Yeah. went on to explain that the shinui in the tzuras apas can only be done while it's being baked, prior to baking, not after it's baked. After it's baked, it's late. After it's baked, you can't say, well, let's see, this is a big challah, and it's a problem. Okay, I'm going to cut it up in pieces and give it to people, each one a small piece, let them finish it. So they shouldn't have neither of them should have a shear, right? That would be a problem.
In other words, even if it's a small quantity, that it can be, have to eat it in what its meal is. I can't put it in 2 weeks.
That's correct. That's also true. It has to be that which is ordinarily eaten pretty much
and the meal has
in that
be,
meal. Yeah,
and the meal has,
and
to,
the meal
be
has
now.
to be down. And the meal
Can't
has to
be
be
a meal in 2 years.
No, the meal can be days from now.
So how about 2 weeks?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's a small piece.
So what I'm saying is, so I'll have a small piece for a meal,
Yeah.
in 2 from now.
No, that you can't.
So
That's
I
the
can't
whole
make 2 small
chashash.
pieces?
Right, that's the whole chashash. You could put it away in the freezer.
Yeah.
A small piece of challah like that,
Yes.
right?
Right, making it small just for one meal, but I make several of them because I'm already at it. Why should I
Yeah.
have to make it one every meal? So I make one every
I
meal.
thought last time you said that
Right.
you cannot make small, somebody might forget.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, you're right. We got it. We confused that a little bit. As far as what you said about putting it away, no. Putting it away defeats the whole purpose of it.
So I can't
Because the
prepare
mistake,
a small challah
right.
for a meal in 2 now.
That's
It has to
correct.
be the
As we
next
said,
meal
as we said
everybody.
last time. I'm sorry. As we said last time. Very good. I was trying to catch myself. That it's not that you can go ahead, and freeze it and put it away. Because even though you may be tempted to put away, that's what we do today. In those days, they never even did that, so that wasn't even a question. Nobody put away challah; it would become stale. It would dry up. Today, that we have that ability to put away challahs, if you put it away, then it's like you have leftovers. So that's no good.
No, but the difference being, though,
Yeah.
that the leftover would be the leftover of a big challah, like you have leftover all the
Yeah.
time. Whereas
Yeah.
this would be one
Right.
that its size
Right.
would be identifiable as something set aside, not to its shape, but to its size.
Yeah, no, but the size is not identifiable. The shape is. The size only tells you, I ate it, I made it now, I'm going to eat it now. I'm not going to have leftovers for another kind of meal. Because now, as I am making it, I know what I'm making it for. I know the ingredients. Once I'm done with it, I may forget what this was. I may forget that this is a Melicha Kechala, and that's where the problems begin. So it's a chashash that the mistakes can and they do occur.
So with a different
Right.
shape, I can make
With a
it
different shape, I will
for
not
other
forget.
meals.
Yeah. So thank you for reminding me that.
The other
Yes.
question I had,
Right.
you said that
Right.
you'd be able to have Shabbos.
Right.
You need the dough to begin with on Shabbos.
No, of course not.
So
No.
therefore,
You could on Yom Tov.
Yom Tov you-
Yeah, I could. Yeah. No, I just gave that as an example of a bread that is eaten or consumed within a day as opposed to within a meal. Because the Shabbos you may have 2 meals. I use that as an example, but obviously, technically or practically, it may not be so practical. It may not work out that way. All right, so we said a very important point, and Mr. Chuba brings it down to that the shinui only helps during the time of the baking, right before it, but not afterwards. So once you're done with it, you can say, okay, I'm going to make a shinui now, or I'm going to start distributing it in small pieces to people. However, I did see, I think the Kaf HaChaim is on. I did see the Kaf HaChaim and others, I think too, that if it's a big amount, it's a big hefsed. I don't know if everybody holds like it, but I think they would if it's a big hefsed. People, it was a big mistake. They made Melicha bread, a whole lot. What do you do? Imagine a bakery makes it. I mean, the bakery, or at your home, it's the same halacha. The only thing is you have large quantities that you would be able to give it out to a lot of people. A slice. Here, take a slice. In other words, in order not to throw it away, you would technically be able to do that. You would be able to distribute it. Or making a shinui too, by the way. Making a shinui right away. If this is after the fact. Otherwise you can't use it. It's usher. But I guess if it's a big quantity and you're stuck with it, but it is somewhat possible to make a shinui on it. It's after the fact, that after it became usher. Kaf HaChaim says, I saw, that if it's a hefsed, I think he says if it's a hefsed, it was already done, the shoykik, of course, that it's okay. I understood that to mean if it's behefset. Because we hold, the majority of the poskim at least hold, not all of them, that b'shoigeg, in other words, if it's done already, you can't change it anymore. You can't make the shinu. That's what we did. That's what we discussed last time. You can't make a shinu, neither can you give it out. It's also, it's also. Kaf HaChaim brings down that I guess if it's a large amount, you still are able, if you need to, you could give out small little pieces where there's no chashash, or make a shinu. If it's a real shinu, the people will not make that mistake, then that's fine.
The majority would hold like that, or not?
At least in a hefset situation. Yeah.
You can rely on that.
Yeah, you can rely on that. I believe so.
What's the status of the Kaf HaChaim anyway? In shoe situation, or can
When?
you generally speak Kaf HaChaim?
Well, he's a major posek, especially for the Sfardim. And many times he's actually machmir like the Ashkenazim do. So he's definitely a
Because I
posek.
don't see the Kaf HaChaim quoted much. Occasionally you see.
It depends by who. It
It's an
depends by who.
opera, of
Yeah.
course.
But anyway,
When did-
he was just after about 100 years ago. Yeah, maybe a little less actually. Less than 100 years ago. You know. Anyway, 80, 85 years ago. The Aruch HaShulchan did explain that the whole idea of shoigig, the reason why the shoigig is still also is because the whole idea is a harchoka. If this is a harchoka, what difference does it make if it was b'shoigig? In other words, we're not going to make a chiluk if it's, if he did it intentionally or not. The b'shoigig it would be okay, right? I mean, this could make a difference. It depends how you hold it. There are those who say yes. Oh, he didn't know the halacha. No, the whole idea is halacha. So what? He now found out the halacha. So the whole thing is halacha, even though he didn't know. I mean, we want to avoid mistakes, and that's why, at least in the din of lechatchila, meizit or shoigig, according to I think the majority of the poskim doesn't make it. It would still be also, unless it's a big hefset. We also learned in Sif Aleph, if you smeared the surface of the oven with alyo, it will be a problem of the tam coming into the bread, so it's no longer just the be'ein, it's also the tam. Then the din of such bread being baked in an oven that is tochu be'alyo is the same like kneading the dough with milk. Anyway, all the Ramot did was to tell us that the meaning of Shavuos, where things are needed with milk.
He passed away in 1939.
Oh, was it 39? Okay, it's even less. Yeah.
Too close.
He says for Shavuos, for Shabbos, sometimes what people do, sometimes with Shuman or with Chalab, is considered a small amount, and their Tzurason is different than other pot. Same thing with Paladin and Pastida, different kinds of kugels and meatloafs, which is a combination of dough and meat. All of these items one is able to identify that they're fleshig. But he says, don't do them at the same time. Don't bake a bread and a pastida at the same time, especially in those ovens when they were sitting on the same surface as opposed to different racks, because we were concerned it may go from the gravy may run into the bread. And if it did, so it's like it was kneaded together with it.
Now that's interesting of the oven. If I have the pashtida in there and a little bit of the gravy of the pashtida comes out of the container,
Right.
and goes into the floor of the oven.
Right.
It just goes into the.
Sure.
So now I have blias of the oven.
That's right. That's going to be another problem.
And I'm wondering, does that have a din of not?
That's what we're going to be talking about now. Yeah, that already. That,
I mean, do we have your din of they're cooking simultaneously, so it's not?
that's addressed in Sif Beis and or Gimel.
All right.
Yeah, that issue. The only doubt that I had in the Ramah, the last words of the Ramah, was what he says, "V'noagin lasum hatfeilu befi hatanur." Now, according to the Aruch HaShulchan, we said last time that he says that tfeila is the pastida. That should be, it should be at the P in the beginning, so you can put everything else further deeper in, right? That's the minhag. Tfeila by itself, to me, means that which is unseasoned. The tuffle one, the one that does not have the meat. If the pastida usually has the meat, then perhaps that means the challah. That's what I wasn't really sure what he meant by that.
Interesting about the Shulchan Aruch when we did the Shulchan. I don't
Right.
remember what he said.
Yeah, look it up.
I remember that
Yeah.
when we did it in the Shulchan,
Right.
The Badia, this whole thing scenario.
Yeah, okay, so check it
It
out.
has something to do with I think the front of the was lower than, so that if any spilled would go uphill.
Right.
Something like
No,
that.
but the gabe tefela.
Yeah. Right, so
Or Hashulchan says it's the pastida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it could be that it's the one that's seasoned for some reason. He's calling it that. And either way, separate them enough that they won't get into each other.
I think the idea is that whatever would injure
Right.
the one could be on the lower level of the on the somewhat higher level, and the entrance of the oven was lower.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that would be it. The one that would endanger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ramah finishes off, even if it's in a tray, we're machmer lechatchilan not to put them together.
Now, does the shach of the here to?
No, not really. Not this particular point. Now, the Taz does say a little bit what you were trying to say. That even if the gravy didn't go all the way to the challah, when it started, if you saw gravy spilling, there's blias. Mm-hmm. So it could be the blias are mefapeh. In other words, it could present a problem. All right. But we will see that a little bit later on. That was Sif Aleph. Let's go on to Sif Beis. Actually, before we go on to Sif Beis, we also discussed what's brought down, mentioned by several of the poskim. What's the din if there is shishim? Remember that? There's shishim to be mevatel the cholov. Mm-hmm. So that was a very interesting discussion because we don't do it still because it's a form of bittul isser lechatchila. So the Aruch HaShulchan brings down, but if we're not talking about bread, we're talking about other items that have a little of milk, and it wouldn't be a bittul isser lechatchila because in the case of a wine, the addition of a little bit of milk is just to be metaken. So I'm being metaken something and not being mevatel and isser. And he adds that the whole chashash and the whole gzera, therefore, was only legabe bread. It wasn't legabe other food items. So therefore, we also learned that cakes, sweets, if you remember, that are ordinarily eaten at the end of the meal for dessert, would not be a problem if they were made with milk. Now, obviously, we're not going to have those melicha desserts in a fleishike meal. All it says is that there's no gzer to make them melichiks, because even if you were to eat it by mistake at the end of a meal, it's not a problem. You see what I mean? Even if you were to eventually make such a mistake and ate it for dessert in a fleishike meal by mistake, it wouldn't be such a problem. B'di'evet. Obviously, you're not going to do it. So there's the gzero does not apply to those foods because you don't eat them at the same time. So we're not choishish. Oh, you're going to have it with your meat. You're going to have it with your milk. They're not eaten. These sweets, these cakes, cookies, are always eaten at the end for dessert. So we don't have a gzer for that. We don't have that chashash. Because even if it were to happen, it's at the end of the meal anyway. It's not at the same time, which is different. A very important point.
Even though it's a meal, it doesn't change the rule?
No, that's okay. But you're not going to have it together with, you're not going to have chocolate chip cookies with your chicken. Right? You don't have,
In other words, what you're having a problem is with 6 hours.
Yeah, if you're going to have a problem with the distance, well, with that there's no chashash and there's no gzera.
And that's not sufficient to us
to make it to begin with. Lechatchila, that's correct. Yeah.
You're not allowed to have it before 6 hours, but
that's correct. Yeah.
But that doesn't motivate an issue with.
Right. Okay, let's go on. Sif Beis and Gimel. Sif Beis reads as follows. Let's read it first, then we'll explain it. This is all taken from the Gemara. Tanur shetochu be'alyo. We were speaking about that before. There may be an oven which was smeared with this alyo fat. And what we said then was that you cannot bake bread in it. And if you did, it's like dough that was kneaded with shuman. So what should you do if it already had alyo from before? You use the fleishike oven, and now you want to put some bread in there, or melichiks. You want to make a pizza. But here the question is about the bread. Tanu shetochu be'alyo ein oifen bo pas. You don't bake bread in it. Ad sheyasikenu mibifnim, until you heat it from the inside. And how much do you have to eat it? Ad sheyislaben, until it becomes white hot, and it becomes libun, sufficiently hot for it to be constituted as a libun. In other words, you have kasher the oven from this fat. If you want to make bread, you have to kasher the oven. And I'm going to explain that soon. Remember, this is what? This is tarnu shetochu be'alyo. that you've smeared an actual layer of fat, you cannot make bread there achi sekenu v'fnim achi slavim. Vafilu im hu shel kuchya, ein lo heter al yedei hesed mibachutz. Even if it's a kuchya, by me it appears like a base buchya. What does it appear by you? You have the...
Which word?
Do you have a buchya or kuchya there?
Which
Sif base.
Yeah,
Yeah, buchya. Okay, because
Right.
Right. In other words, it's made out of pottery. It's made out of cheretz. What it is, and I think it may have been called also a kuchya. But anyway, here it says buchya. What it was a small kind of oven of sorts, where it was heated from the outside. The fire was underneath it, and you put whatever food in it or on it. And it was made out of cheretz. So that's significant over here. So even though it's made out of cheretz, in other words, even though it's a buchya, which means what? Which means that it's heated from the outside, and you may say, well, since it's heated from the outside, maybe I can make the hesek. I can heat it up also from the outside to kasher it. I never put any coals inside. I never heated it from the inside. And we have a klal of keboilo kach poltoi. In the way something is used and absorbs, that's how it emits. That's how you extract the tam that was nivla. So here I may say that perhaps that's what I can do. If it's a buchya, that means it was heated from the outside. I can also heat it from the outside to make it kosher. Ein lo heter al yedei hesed mibachutz. You cannot make this mutar mibachutz. Okay. The parenthesis is what's buchya pirush kli cheres shemasikin tachto ve'oifim olav ugois. In other words, you heat it from the bottom and you put on it cakes or bread. Okay, so what do we have here? We have here an oven that was talking about Ayo, and we're talking about how to make it kosher. So what's going over here? The Gemara discusses there that bread that was baked in such an oven, you cannot eat the bread even by itself. Okay? And that's what we saw over here, before in Sifalot, that it's the same, like nilush, like iso sheniloshu becholov. Why? Because maybe he may come to eat it with milk. So Rashi over there says, well, what's the problem here? The problem is that the aliyot, or the shuman there, gives tam in the bread. Okay, well, I have a question there. What's the difference then between this and the halacha, which we saw in Kuf Ches in Taaruvot, about baking bread in the same oven as meat? Which even though we don't do, I think the Rambam brings down the lechatchila, the halacha is today, we don't bake bread at the same time, bake bread, that you're roasting a meat. Even though it's not asur. But the question is, what's the difference between that din and this din? Well, that din has to do with something called reicha milsa or lav milsa, which, if you recall, is a big machlokes between Rav and Levi, and Abaye and Rava, and the various poskim. Reicha milsa or lav milsa? Is the odor an issue or not? Is it any milsa or not? Is it something that we should reckon with? Can it aser? The odor, it's just the odor, reach. We hold like Levi. Halacha lemaise, just about everybody holds reicha lav milsa. Reicha is not a big deal. It is not aser. It does not have the same koch. It's not tam. Even though Rav said it is, but we hold it's not. Okay, so we'll come back to it a little bit later. But just for you to know, there is a machlokes whether that din is a b'diavad or even lechatchila. Is reicha lav milsa also lechatchila? Can I go ahead and bake or cook kosher meat with non-kosher meat in the same oven? That was what Hilchos Taaruvos was all about. We had that in Siman Kuf Ches. And we had various conditions of when it's possible. You know, I can't imagine anybody doing it today, but somehow...
One of the two is covered.
Yeah, we will see. It depends if it's covered, depends on how big the oven is, depends if it's open or not. Depends. Yeah, so we're going to get into that a little bit. It's good to review a little bit of those halachas soon. I'm just giving you a little bit of a preview now, that the main difference between there and here is that over there is reicha, pure reach, and here we're talking about tam. So that's number one. So even though you may recall, okay, it may be possible to bake bread, forget about Isser and Heter. or milchiks and which we'll talk about how to make milchiks and fleishiks in the same oven at the same time. But right now we're concerned about bread. So bread appears to be not a problem to bake in the same oven at the same time. So why is it here a problem? Tam. Over there it's reicha and over here it's tam. Now, this bread over here, you went ahead, let's say you did bake it in there's an oven that has the fat. What did we say? It's osur. Osur means even to eat it by itself. I'm sorry. 1 second. No. 1 second. Yeah, I'm sorry. That which we allow, that bread is osur. The bread that was baked together with meat, which we will see in Sif Gimel, we will not allow you to eat it with milk. We will allow you to eat it by itself. Yeah, because in Sif Gimel we will talk a little bit again about reicha, but here there's no reicha. Here it's tam. So here it has the same din as the dough that was made with milk. Whereas being baked in the same oven, even though you shouldn't do it, if you did it, right, you can eat it by itself.
How it would meat? How about would meat? Should be with you?
No.
How about milk?
You eat it by itself. You only eat it by itself. Can you eat it?
Maybe it was being confused.
I think so. Let me see if I can recall. It could be you can. You know what? I don't remember right now. Because I'll tell you why it may be okay. It may be okay only because you know why it's okay, Ilan?
Yeah.
If I recall, the reason why it may be okay to eat with is because reicha lav milsahi anyway. It's just a chumrah. So the whole thing is a chumrah. Now, why is this a chumrah? Why in Sif Gimel do we say eat it by itself? Also le'ochlo b'chalav, just b'chalav, but by itself you for sure can, because it's reicha lav milsahi. So why shouldn't I be able to eat it with milk? Because here it will be a din of lechatchila. If I want to, I don't have to eat it with milk. In other words, it's not a din of b'di'evet. I have no choice. I have a choice. With Isser in Kuf Ches, I really have a dilemma. It was made with Isser in the same oven. There's no lechatchila b'di'evet. Can I eat it or not? Here, you can go ahead and eat it. Why eat it with milk dafka? See what I mean? So here it's a lechatchila din. You don't have to have it with milk. Just have it by itself. Why not? You can. So, but there's a difference therefore between the halachas that we will soon see in Sif Gimel and the halachas in Taaruvot that deal with reicha too. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I can see why that distinction.
Right.
But I find it interesting that they paskin that even though it was a door for people getting.
Because in the Meiser clause we hold reicha lav milsahi. The Aruch HaShulchan explains that part of the chumrah of here in Tzadik Zayin is because lechatchila will choishes to Rav. And a lechatchila, and as we'll see, it's Rishonim too. Lechatchila we are choishes the reicha milsahi. And because of that, that's how the Shach also brings down over here, that it's all a lechatchila. So there's a question there in Toyses, by the way. I remember there was an interesting question. Toyses asked, well, why shouldn't we make it mutter because of nat bar nat? The bread in the oven. It's a nat bar nat. And according to the Mechaber, you can eat it lechatchila with the other side. With the Ramah, you can't lechatchila unless it's already mixed, right? Remember nat bar nat? Tosha says over there the shuman is never clean enough. Even though you cleaned it, it's not completely gone. You still have a little bit of it. That's what he says. So it's not a real nat bar nat. That's what the Meforshim explains. So it's like a be'ein, and therefore it's not a real nat bar nat. But anyway, it's a lechatchila in Re'ah over here.
Just by Re'ah?
No. The whole chumrah is because in reality it's only Re'ah, so it's only a chumrah. Okay, so before we go on, let's just talk a little bit about what's going on in the Gemara here with Kuchya or Buchya. The Gemara is speaking about Klei Cheres. Klei Cheres does not have a way to make it kosher. Why not? First of all, the Chachamim tell us that the blias do not come out well.
It's not all.
Not completely. So here, with the buchya, to warm it out from the outside, which is the way it's done, would that for sure not accomplish that, because it will not take out what's inside, riyas that are inside. So you cannot use the same method that you use for others, because if it was metal, you could technically do it from the outside. The fire, it will work. But here, it wouldn't work because of the way it's used. So the Gemara, in discussing klecheres, the Gemara says, well, why don't you just put it back in the oven that made the klecheres? And the answer is, that is pretty much the only thing you can do to klecheres. If you were to take a piece of pottery, that is treif, and put it back in the oven that makes this pottery, furnace, that's the word for it, then it will be mutter. Why? So as Tosfos explains, that's not called that you're taking out the blias. That's called you're being mechadash the whole keli. So that's why don't tell me. In other words, don't ask me why this was not suggested, because that's not what we're talking about. That is already a complete different mahalach. Now you're taking it back to the factory. Now you're redoing the whole thing. That's of course okay. And therefore the Gemara says, by buchya too, if you filled it with gecholim, with coals in the inside, it would be fine. Why don't we do libun nonetheless to the klecheres? If libun could really help, perhaps libun stronger from the inside, because with klecheres we're concerned also for something else, that chayes alav. You're concerned it may break. And that is why this halacha is very relevant to our times too, that with certain material, we're concerned you may not make real libun to it. You're concerned that the real libun will destroy it or damage it, sure. Whereas those that you take back to the factory, it obviously shows that you're not concerned about it, because you're redoing the whole thing. So if it was such a situation where there was no chayes aleh, then of course it would be mutter to take it through the higher form of heat, like especially if it's a furnace.
Oh, it's a concern that actually you won't use it really thoroughly. You'll be worried
because that's
damage it. That's a similar argument for dikat chovos.
Yeah, that's dangerous too.
Yeah, and also that you won't
shine
into those corners because you set everything on fire.
Yeah. Anyway, the Pri Megadim on Sif Beis says, as far as Tochel ve'alyo en oifen bo pas ad sheyasikenu mibifnim. He says, even according to the Pri Megadim, even if the alyo was just done in a portion of the oven, not through the whole surface, you have to be machshir the whole oven. It's interesting, however, if you look at the Chassam Sofer, I saw a whole discussion about ovens that, in those days they did have quite a few ovens that were made out of clay. And the question is, do you really have to do all of it or not, if only a portion of it is used? So the Chassam Sofer makes the following distinction. There are some ovens or some clay pots or whatever you want to call it that are made through the heat of the sun. Sun-dried, they're called. In Mexico, I know they do that. Even with tiles, when you buy saltillo tiles for flooring, the cheaper ones are dried in the sun. It's a different method. It's cheaper. It lasts, but it's more brittle. You can easily break. And there's other disadvantages to it. Then there is one that's done in the furnace, stronger. But comes along the Chassam Sofer and was mechadash, something that I didn't. I mean, obviously he looked into it. He says those that are done in the sun, they're done in such a way where the sun heats up the whole thing and it becomes one piece. In other words, the whole oven is one piece.
The whole oven is
the whole piece of clay, the whole thing, the whole buchya, whatever was done in the sun, becomes one piece. So you can't be machshir just one area. You have to be machshir the whole thing, if that's the way it was done. Those that are done with the furnace is so hot, much hotter, that each corner, even though they're separate pieces in the other one too, we're talking about all separate. It's not all one real piece, but because of the sun baked it, it's like it's one piece. If it's done in the oven, in the furnace, even though because they were separate pieces and they become so hot, they're actually individual pieces. So if you have, like, let's say, I don't know, just various parts to this oven that comes together and was done in a furnace, and there was only aliyah on one of the parts, and it was made in a furnace, it could be you wouldn't have to kasher the whole thing, because then it does not travel as much. That's the way he makes the decision. It does not travel. It stays put where it is because of the method used to bake to make the pottery. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I saw that somewhere. Yeah, anyway, the various halachos of Reicha Milsa are in Siman Kufches, and we're only going to go through a little bit of them that pertain to what we have here. And that is as follows. In Reicha Milsahi, or Lav Milsahi, we pass in Lav Milsahi. However, it is important that we have certain other conditions met too, at least lechatchila. There's a difference between lechatchila and b'di'evet by Reicha. Because we're machmir, especially by tarfas. Remember, there the big question is treif. But the same would apply with basar b'chalav. Alright, so before we know what we need to do, I don't know if we talked about this at length, we definitely mentioned it. What about Zeya? Isn't Zeya concerned? Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzedek V'Rocha, brings up this problem, apparent problem, when people want to make milichiks and fleishiks in the same oven. What's the best way to go about it? And we're not necessarily talking about the same time. If Zeya is a problem, then it could be a problem one after the other, in the same day, that is. So what's the difference between Zeya and Reicha? And you know what? Most poskim don't talk about this. What's the difference? It's interesting. You learn through all Basar, B'chalav, and Taaruvot, you won't find too much mention in the poskim about Zeya.
Difference.
What is the difference? Or should there be a difference?
Well, the Zeya, I thought it was moisture.
Yeah.
That evaporate food.
Yeah.
It's mamashes.
Well, we don't see. The only time we really see that is when it's right beneath. The two things are being milk and fleishing right beneath a tray where the Zeya mamash comes down.
Yeah,
with
but
them.
it's actually.
But if there's any Zeya in the walls of the oven, we don't really see that being a problem. And lechora, you are right. I mean, shouldn't it be a problem? That's what Moshe Feinstein raises the question as shouldn't the Zeya be a problem even though Reicha is not? Zeya is different than Reicha. We know Zeya is a problem in certain situations, depending on the proximity.
We have the pan.
Right, with the pan and all that, sure. And we saw it in Taaruvot too.
And also the pot, the lid of it.
Exactly. So that's where we see that Zeya can be a concern. So Moshe, in dealing with this problem, says, well, what about the Zeya just in the walls by itself, without the real difficult scenario, where your mamish right beneath them both at the same time, absorbing Zeya, which is Yad Seled both too. So in that case, there's no question, we have a Befer Halacha. But in general, what about the Zeya in the oven? So Lemaisa, he holds, if you want to use the oven, fleishika oven, for melchika, for fleishiks, don't use them at the same day. Because once you use them at a separate day, then whatever you had there is pogum.
The bli is enough.
Not only blaze, even the Zeya. Even the Zeya, yeah. It was even if you want to say that it's, even the Zeya. It's pogum. The whole thing is pogum. It's not mamoshes. So that's number one. Number two, and that we also see Bareicha, and that would apply to Zetu or any other concern with Melicha. And this would even help you to use the oven at the same time if one of them is covered. Use different grills. If you had to, that is. If you had to. We don't do that. Today we don't use the oven, Melicha inflation at the exact same time, even if they're both covered. We just don't do it. But it's possible.
Usually people have two different ovens.
Not everybody. You'd be surprised, yeah. You have the same oven, you have a big party, you have a big Sheva Brachas or whatever. You don't have time. Technically it could be done. We don't do it. Not only don't we do it separately, we also don't do it in the same day. So lechatchila, we don't bake, roast, milchiks and fleishiks in the same oven, even on the same day. Even if one of them was covered. Even if both of them were covered. Lechatchila not. But b'di'evet, it's possible.
So the really b'di'evet is shatat chak.
Well, by milchiks and fleishiks, and by surah, I would use the word shatat. Yeah, that's a better term. If there's a real need, exactly. Because what are we dealing with in the end, after all? We're dealing with Reicha or Zeya. And it's not a Zeya which is a real problem Zeya because it's in the walls, it's not really in close proximity where it could be a problem. Then on top of that, you had in Kuf Ches, remember, and we're going to see it now in Siv Gimel, you also have the advantage of sometimes dealing with large ovens. So the larger the oven, and especially if there's an opening, then you're at an advantage. The reason Ramoshes posed this question with Zeya is especially concerning our ovens, that even though you may hold, like the majority of poskim, that our ovens qualify as being a big oven, and a big oven, it's mentioned in Halacha Taaruvot and here, that it would be helpful. We don't have the advantage of any opening. In those days, their ovens had an opening on top where the smoke came out, a vent. And there's a question about whether that opening has to be small or big, and we'll see that next. So these are some of the concerns legabe alechatchila din of Reicha or Zeya. But as Ilan pointed out, b'shas atchak, there are various ways that it could be mutter, especially if you're dealing with one of them at least is covered, even though the oven is small and even though it's closed. That's where you can come out ahead. And why? Because it's either Reicha or Zeya. It's not real time. We're not talking about cooking them together. We're not talking about cooking them next to each other, even where they could be liyas. We're talking about in the end, Reicha or Zeya, but especially Reicha. And we hold Reicha lav milsahi. That's the foundation of this heter. Of course we're machmer. Of course we don't do it lechatchila, but shasat chak, depending on what you have size-wise and so forth, it can be mutter. So in Sif Beis, what we saw so far is that in case you want to use that oven that had alyo in it, you would have to make it. Yes, it cannot be bifnim. You would have to burn it from the inside. You would have to warm it up. And of course, if you did that to your fleishik oven, it would be good. Now the question is, how much do you have to heat up your fleishik oven to make it completely kosher to make bread or to make melichix or whatever? Do you have to have something called nitzoitzos nitzin, or is it just good enough if it's just heated up a little bit? Nitzoitzos nitzin means sparks flying, which is libun gomer. You see the chiluk of libun kal and libun chomer in Hilchas Pesach. Some things require libun kal, like a frying pan. You can get away with it. You don't need self-cleaning oven, according to some, which goes up to 900 degrees, which qualifies as nitzoitzos nitzin. Perhaps you can just heat it up a couple hundred degrees and that's sufficient, where it will just burn a little bit, whatever is in there. That's the chiluk between the various levels of heating. And why would we allow perhaps here a lower kind of heating, as some boys can want to say that would be sufficient? Only because we're talking about hetera here, not isura. And since we're talking about hetera, which is by the way that whole discussion in Pesach too, chometz a whole year is a hetera, it's not yasar. But we're more machmer by Pesach with chometz, right? But in reality, whatever was nivla, whatever was absorbed in that oven before Pesach is hetera bala. And if it's hetera bala, perhaps we should be more lenient. And that's the question over here too. How much would you need to? So some are more lenient than others. The gabe, how much you need. And that's what the Pri Megadim talks about here. He says a hesek kal might be sufficient to burn up the be'in that was in there for bread purposes. And then it becomes a hetera and becomes not barnat. Anyway, the Yad Yehuda I saw holds that you need a complete, for tanur cheres at least. He says that if it's pottery, that kind of an oven, you need the highest form of heat. He would agree with the Pri Megadim if it was metal, by the way. If it was a metal oven like our ovens, that it's sufficient to heat it up a little bit, because even with a little bit of heat, you would get rid of the shuman, any ba'in over there. But as I told before, I think I saw in the Chochmah Sodom, Ramah is with the opinion that even if you have a big oven, and you have all the openings and everything, you should not bake a bread at the same time that meat is roasted. But here the question was, okay, you're going to clean it up. How much heat do you need? So, in a metal oven, you may not need that much heat. Remember, we're not talking about heter, we're not talking about isur, you're not talking about kashering the whole oven from tray to kosher, which you would really need. Here, clean it up a little bit, and it would be fine. Here, after all, what is the problem here? Here, the problem is that you're putting it on the surface. You're putting it in the same spot. You're putting it in the same spot, and it has to be clean. We're not talking about here just hanging the hair on a tray, on a rack, which is a problem of reicha. Here it's a problem of tam. So how do you get rid of the tam? Well, you heat it up. How much do you heat it up? Well, it could be that in a metal oven, if you heat it up a little bit, you make sure it's clean, it will be sufficient, because any time that's still left over, maybe it's heter, so it's not barnat. You see? So that's why the Pri Megadim has this discussion over here. How much heat do you need? Because ordinarily, what's the question? And you would need to make a big libun to get the tam out. Yeah, but this is hetera. That's the difference. So that was Sif Beis. Since we're talking about by a bukhya, it's only heated from the outside, it's a problem. And no hetera dech esem mibachutz, you would have to somehow heat it up from the inside to remove all the blias. So that's with our ovens, we don't have this problem because we heat it from the inside anyway, so it would be okay. We don't actually bake on the surface anyway. We have racks, as I said. So this halacha is not so much shayach by us unless you're dealing with those ovens that they have for pizzas and matzahs, where they still do bake on the floor and the surface, or even on the walls. I don't know if you've ever seen those ovens where they bake by sticking against the walls of the oven. So you're dealing with the surface. So then you have a question of blias. As opposed to the next and last seif, which talks about reicha. So Seif Gimel says, Pas sha'ofo imatzli, bread that was baked with the tzli, with the roasted meat. V'dogim shetzolo betanur, echad ima basar, and fish that were, and I say in quotes, mistakenly roasted together in the same oven with meat. And why do I say mistakenly? Right, because you should never roast fish or cook fish or whatever with meat together because of health issues. So here the concern is not the health. It's a different halacha. It's halacha. Here we're talking about reicha. But you have to be careful not to do it for other reasons, health reasons. Fish with meat. And that is no machlokes, by the way, is fine in Ashkenazi, like with milk and fish. Fish with meat is a health problem. So let's say you went ahead and baked bread with meat roasting in the same oven, fish that was roasted together with the same oven. Also, le'ochlo b'cholav, it is forbidden to eat them with milk. Why? This fish you can't have with milk. This bread you can't have with milk. It roasted. It was in the same oven. We hold reichalav milsahi. It's only reach that we're concerned here. So the Mechaber says, you know when it's also hanemile betanur katan. It's a small oven. Aber betanur gadol, if it's a bigger oven, amachzik 12 esronim, it holds a certain quantity, 12 esronim, which I'll tell you soon what that is. And pif patuach, and its mouth, its opening is open. Mutter. He seems to say mutter lechatchila. V'im atzli mechusa, same thing is tzli, that which is roasted is covered. V'chem pastida, or this kugel, pastida, shemechuse hanekev shebo, that the hole, in other words, it has a layer of batzek, of dough, and it has a little hole inside of it. If that little hole, which is not covered, is covered, mutar, then it's mutar, afilu betanur tsar, if it's a narrow oven. So obviously, here he tells us a little bit of the halachas of reicha, that if you're dealing with items that are covered, even though they may not be together, roasted or heated in the oven at the same time, if you're dealing with a large oven with an opening, or if the items, or one of them is covered, then it's okay, it's mutar. Mutar lechatchila. Okay, so first of all, what is a big oven? It says 12 esronim. What is an isaron? So the Shach just brings down that isaron, every isaron is the shear of echala, which is 43 and a fifth egg, quantity-wise. Okay? That's the amount that you make challah with. In other words, the hafrashas challah. That's the shear of shnema, so that's isaron. So 12 esronim, which is quite large amount. That can amount to, it depends on how you hold the shear of beya, weights. There's the Chazon Ish, there's the other shitas. We could be talking about 50 pounds volume, or more even, depending which shita. It's a large amount. If you have a large oven that can hold that amount, then it's good. Measurements-wise, the Pesach Tshuva brings down here from the Tshuva's Yad Eliyahu, I think basically talks about dimensions there. And if you're dealing with, let me see if I remember, you're dealing with 5 and a little over 5 tefachim width by 7 depth by 7 height. Tefachim is 4 inches, 1 tefach, so 28 inches by 28 inches by about a little over 20 inches. I think it's about 22 inches wide, which is a good size oven that we have. According to these dimensions and this shear, our ovens would qualify as a tanur gadol. Only problem, as Rav Moshe points out, is that they don't have an opening, and that could be a problem with the zeya. And Reicha in a sense too, because even though we hold Reicha Lav Milsahi, we are concerned in the lechatchila situation. We are, as the Aruch HaShulchan says, in the lechatchila, yes, you don't do it unless, and he says it's mutter, unless of course it's big with an opening and so forth. So lechatchila, you don't want to do it. You don't want to even. And even our ovens, some say our ovens are not big, because according to others, the shear is not in the full halal of the oven. According to Pri Megadim brings down, and some hold like the Pri Megadim, that shear that is mentioned over here is just the surface. And if that's just the surface, we don't have those kinds of ovens. What we're talking about is an entire halal of the oven.
Volume.
The whole volume. We have that volume. It was pretty much, that's a decent sized oven. But if the shear is only the surface, only big bakeries have that kind of a surface. We don't have it. So that's why, it's a question of whether we would qualify. But most places hold that we would qualify for a tanur gadol, just that it has no petach. So it still poses a problem. Machlokes between the shach in Siman Kuf Ches and the Torah Schatas, and others, and not Torah Schatas. The shach, if you remember from the Taaruvot, holds that even if it's patuach me'at, and the tanur is gadol, it's also lechatchila, to put Isra and Heter together. Patuach me'at, he says. From this mechaber, he says, mechaber didn't tell us how much patuach, he just says, tanur gadol, pif patuach. He doesn't say how much. The shach wants to learn from that probably he means it wide open. Patuach me'at, he wouldn't allow it, but the Pri Chodesh says that it would be mutter even if it's patuach me'at. So that's a machlokes on how much it has to be patuach. Because mechaber doesn't say how much. So the shach says, well, he's probably talking about a lot. The Pri Chodesh says not necessarily.
The accomplishment is tough.
Yeah, the Reach and the Zeyah. Yeah. Kresu Plesi and Chochmas Adam also say that even if it's a little bit, it's okay. And this would make a difference in Basar B'chalav too, in the same way. Yeah. So that's the general machlokes over here, the halachas that apply, for the most part, the various details in Hilchas Taaruvos. That if this bread was baked at the same time with the meat, or the fish with the meat, but the oven was large enough, then it wouldn't be a problem. It's only a problem in the lechatchila, and still it's a lechatchila, because reicha lav milsahi, if it was a smaller oven. And that's a three-way machlokes. Like gabe reicha milsa, whether we hold it's mutter completely, and the din would be lechatchila, or that we hold like the vast majority of poskim hold, that we hold like Levi, the reicha lav milsahi, it's not a problem, b'di'evet. Lechatchila it is. And that's why we have the halacha here, don't do it. Or, according to some, it would be even a din lechatchila. Let me see if I have it. Yeah, I think I have it here. I wrote it down. Ran holds that Levi was matel lechatchila. Ran, I think others also, but the Ran for sure says it's even lechatchila. It's mashal like that in Tosis and the Ramban. The Rif says it's only b'di'evet, and it's also in the Raivet, the Rashba, the Rambam, the Taz and Shach and Siman Kuf Ches. We got a Basar kosher with nevela, that is. Now over there with Basar kosher and nevela, remember there was a problem. The Shach and Taz actually say that the only time it's asur is if one of them is shomen, if one of them is fatty, because then the fattiness is what causes the problem. The rechet will be absorbed. Yeah. But if there will be both kochush, it wouldn't be a problem. The Ramah doesn't say that. Ramah says no way. Even if they're both kochush lean, we still have a problem lechatchila.
Because you must don't know what's kochush.
The Pri Megadim says all of this doesn't make a difference. Pri Megadim says because we don't know anyway the difference between kochush and shaman. So lechatchila, remember that's only a din in a lechatchila, not in a b'di'evet. Shach adds that what we are aser by reicha lechatchila is only by isur deraisa. If you would have a situation where you have an isur derabbanan, for example, you had kachal, the udder of the animal, or any kind of isur derabbanan, it would be mutar lechatchila, he says. So it comes down to, I saw that it comes down to lemaisa. You can say it's a machlokes Rif and Tosfos if you're allowed to bake bread lechatchila with meat, to eat the bread by itself. would you be able to do it lechatchila? Now with milk. According to the Rif, it would be aser lechatchila because reicha is only mutar b'diavad, and on lechatchila we do have the takanas chachamim that don't do it. It would apply here. According to Tosfos, it's mutar lechatchila because the takanas chachamim does not apply to this. Even though, by the way, Tosfos, especially Rabbi Elyahu, holds like Rav that reicha milsahi. He obviously differentiates that, but that there was no takana by bread. In other words, there's no chash. By bread, it's only a chumrah. It's not a nikam ikar adin. So he's the one that holds that reicha milsahi, Rabbi Elyahu. Nonetheless, he says that by bread it would not be a problem. So it would be a machlokes based on this between the Rif and the Rambam and the Tosfos. We're talking about over here, of course, about baking bread and eating it by itself, as opposed to the halacha that we have here, the pas she'ofoi matzli, also le'ochlom b'cholov, which is a different din. Here the din is as far as, can I eat it with milk? Right? That's a separate problem. But the question is, what about eating it by itself? Right? Can I eat this bread by itself?
We said, but in the can.
Yeah. So we hold that it's okay. At least, No, but the other we know it's okay. But the question is, lechatchila, there would be also machlokes. Can I eat it by itself? In other words, does the takanas?
Am I allowed to put it in the oven? Allowed to put meat in there as well? Or?
Yes. And to eat it by itself, because what's going to?
How am I going to eat it with the oven?
The bread by itself.
Yeah,
I'm not going to eat it with milk.
Yeah, how am I going to eat it with the oven?
No, it's not with the oven. Well, lechatchila means, can I put it into the oven? Right? To do it. But the other means it already happened. Can I eat it by itself? Not a problem. Here the whole issue was to eat it with milk. Also le'ochlom b'cholov. So the Shach explains, even though later on we said, and this is Halacha Taaruvot, tzolu bosu kshero in bosu nevela betanu echad afilu koto mutar b'diavad. Remember? Treif. It's mutar b'diavad. So we explained, and it's a very important chiluk over there. It's treif. So we have to be matar b'diavad. We have no choice. B'diavad, we don't hold reicha milsahi. But over here, you don't have to have it with your breakfast, with your cheese, with your cream cheese. You can eat it by itself. So that's why it's a lechatchila. So that's a big difference. Here, you don't have to have it with the milk. So we say asr. So the question is, well, what about lechatchila, breaking the bread, to eat it by itself? Would that be a problem? So apparently, we don't do it. Really, I think the Ramah says it's understood that we don't do it, but it could be also it's totally on the machlokes, the Rif and Tosfos, and how on if you would say that would apply, if the takanas chachamim would apply to this or not. Because he holds that reicha is only a mutar b'diavad. It's not a lechatchila. You see, it's only a mutar b'diavad thing. So therefore, can't do it lechatchila. It applies to this too. Tosfos says it wouldn't apply to this. Yeah, to this kind of a situation with bread. Reicha, of course, is a problem. Lechatchila elsewhere, but not with bread. So that would be an interesting machlokes. But as we said earlier, it appears that the Ramah doesn't recommend to do it. Is it a problem? No, but the end we know it's not a problem. All right, just to finish up, I did also see an interesting discussion with davar charef, roasting onions in the same oven with meat. That because it's a davar charef, perhaps it does absorb more of the reach of the meat than other things, even if it's a big oven and even if it's open. So there's a machlokes on that. In other words, you got to be putting that onion, then taking that onion, of course. Because it's a davar charef, as we said before, we learned earlier, the davar charef has special dinim, then perhaps it would have its different din, a special din by reicha too. So perhaps even though we say reicha lav milsahi, maybe the din would be different by davar charef. And there are those that, of course, have that concern, even with the big oven, and therefore they're machmer. Nonetheless, obviously, we know the din, as we saw in Halacha Taaruvot, that given certain criteria, certain conditions are met, reicha will not pose as much of a problem, at least in a b'diavad situation. Lechatchila is a whole different din. Can you do something in the same oven at the same time? You have to be careful. If one is covered, then it's okay. And this, of course, we don't have the problem of fleishiks and treif and kosher at the same time. We're not sharing ovens with the goyim, but it could be an issue with milchiks and fleishiks. That's where this, I think, is much more relevant today. Or with bread. You want to accomplish a lot at the same time, and you're baking your challahs at the same time. Well, don't do it at the same time. Unless your chicken is covered. It could be, that's the halacha here. We're talking about roasting at the same time. You're not going to eat it with chalav. You don't plan to eat this with chalav, right? You plan to eat this bread with chalav. Still, you shouldn't do it. Lechatchila. But if you cover the chicken, if you have that kind of a situation where there's no reach to begin with, it's not an issue. Even if it's a small oven, then it would be okay. So these are some of the things to keep in mind when using the oven at the same basar and with chalav. Okay, I think that pretty much does it for Hilchos Basar b'chalav.